My name is on the patent. Williams, the manager from the client company, says smugly. Saying he got a patent, it is absurd. The technology that my predecessor and I spent years developing. There's no way I can let Williams, who just got the position, take credit for it. But when I think about it, that's impossible. Williams can't steal my patent. He probably just applied for the patent. Maybe he wants to see his name on it and dream of a bright future, but what's waiting for him is. Good luck with that, I said mockingly, trying to hold back my laughter. My name is James Johnson, and I'm the president of a small factory with 20 employees. I inherited the factory from my late father, and it's been almost 10 years now. I was originally a salaryman, but when I lost my father at 46, I was called back home and took over as president. I always knew I'd take over someday, but I never expected it to happen so soon, so I was honestly flustered back then. Since childhood, my father's factory was always familiar to me. And having worked for a manufacturing company, I understood what manufacturing was all about. But when I actually became the president, I realized my own shortcomings and struggled quite a bit. Being a middle manager with 20 subordinates is completely different from being a president in terms of responsibility. I now truly appreciate how amazing my father was, working every day covered in oil. Supporting me were the employees who my father had instilled with the spirit of manufacturing. Thanks to them, I managed to get this far. But that's not all. I was also fortunate to have good contacts at our client companies. Our main client is S Industries. The manager in charge at S Industries was a man named Michael Jones. Jones, with his low posture and shaved head, was always friendly and greeted me with a smile when I had just become president and knew nothing. He is nearly 10 years older than me, but between Jones and me, age and our positions didn't matter. Sometimes he treated me like a brother, sometimes like a mentor to a student, and we spent a lot of time as friends. Because of my connection with him, our factory became a trusted subcontractor for S Industries. About 5 years ago, Jones and I succeeded in creating a special technology. It was not flashy, but it was effective in manufacturing the parts we supplied, significantly improving their durability. Since Jones's contribution to this technology development was significant, there was an unspoken agreement that it would only be used for the parts we supplied to S Industries. The use was limited, but I was satisfied with that. The technology created with Jones, the parts manufactured with that technology, and the products of S Industries that used those parts. Each connection felt like a bond between Jones and me, and I savored the joy of being able to create something. But a few years later, I heard that Jones was retiring. It was inevitable, but I felt a great sense of loss. And upon his retirement, Jones left me with unexpected words. James, you should patent this technology. Once I'm gone, who knows what will happen to the company's policies? At the time, I honestly didn't grasp the significance of his words. I had never thought about patenting the technology we developed together. But soon after Jones left, his warning about the uncertain company policies started to make sense. If you make this technology your own, you'll never go hungry, so make sure to handle the proper procedures. Jones, who usually spoke jokingly, was uncharacteristically serious, and that left a strong impression on me. After Jones retired, a man named Robert Williams, who had been transferred from the head office, took over as the new manager. He was a man with strikingly large eyes behind silver-framed glasses. James, you should be careful with Williams. He's said to be brilliant, but he's a man who won't hesitate to use any means to achieve his goals. Jones had said this about Williams. Jones, who never spoke ill of others, left a deep impression on me with this advice. Just as he said, Williams had an air of sharp, elite competence about him. Jones always wore his work clothes and kept a low profile, even when visiting clients, but Williams was always in a crisp suit, looking down on everyone around him. He drew a clear line between himself and the subcontractors, never talking about anything but business. While this might have been more typical, it made me realize just how unique my relationship with Jones had been. Jones and Williams were complete opposites. Maintaining the same kind of relationship with S Industries as before might be difficult. Thinking about Williams made me feel gloomy. Williams initiated negotiations to lower prices about 6 months after he became manager. "Mr. Johnson, I'd like to discuss the parts we're currently ordering. Could you come by as soon as possible?" Williams's words were calm, but his determination was clear. Having heard from other subcontractors about price reductions, I knew that this was likely the same issue. The moment I realized this, my stomach started to ache. We had no intention of agreeing to a price reduction, but we couldn't refuse the meeting request either. "Understood. How about next Wednesday?" I replied, not enthusiastically. Since our factory is small, even as president, I have to work on the floor. Considering that, I thought this was a quick response. But Williams wasn't satisfied. "That's quite leisurely," I said, "as soon as possible. Please make it this week." The pressure from Williams was palpable. I started to worry that we wouldn't be able to refuse the price reduction if this continued. "Okay, how about the day after tomorrow at 5 p.m? I think I can manage that. It might affect our work a bit, but a late afternoon meeting on a weekday could be adjusted." I offered this as a significant concession, but Williams still seemed reluctant. "Fine, the day after tomorrow. Well, it can't be helped. That will do," Williams said, and abruptly hung up the phone. From this one call, I developed a strong dislike for Williams. Jones's warning to be careful with Williams might have had some influence on me. 2 days later, I visited S Industries as scheduled. I was shown to the meeting room, where I faced Williams one-on-one. Williams got straight to the point about the price reduction. "I'll get to the point. We need your cooperation to reduce the price of the parts we order by 10%. He proposed the price cut without any preamble. The stark difference from Jones, who valued communication above all, was shocking. The parts we supply to S Industries have very small profit margins per piece. A 10% price reduction on such low-margin parts is simply out of the question. A 10% price reduction is impossible. If we agreed, the more we deliver, the more we'd lose," I stated firmly, and Williams immediately responded. "Then how much of a reduction can you accept? 8%, 5% or 3%? In Williams's mind, a price reduction was a given from the start. But for us, even a 1% reduction is unacceptable. Considering the cost of raw materials, labor, and the performance of our parts, we should be asking for a price increase. Mr. Williams, are you aware of how important our parts are? If you did, I don't think you would suggest a price cut," I asserted myself confidently, though my heart was pounding. If this caused the contract to be cancelled, our small factory would be done for. The other subcontractors agreed to the terms, but you are saying you won't, is that right? His large eyes behind silver-framed glasses glared at me. My temples throbbed with pain. I couldn't respond, only returning his glare in silence. Then Williams smiled wryly. "It seems Mr. Johnson is as tough as Jones said. You'd rather not sell than accept a price cut. Is that it? Indeed. If we can't get your parts, it's us who will suffer? Fine, let's consider this proposal withdrawn," Williams said, pressing his glasses with his fingers and looking away. I felt my face flush. But my relief was short-lived. "I'll withdraw this time, but this isn't over." He threw this remark at me as I was about to leave the conference room. A chill ran down my spine. Williams was a man who would stop at nothing to achieve his goals. Jones's words from back then weighed heavily on me. From that day, I lived in fear of Williams's words. I was constantly anxious about what he might do next. However, no actions came from Williams, and peaceful days passed by. We continued to manufacture and deliver parts to S Industries as usual. The routine was monotonous but fulfilling, and over time, Williams's words began to fade from my mind, though they never completely disappeared. The only significant change was that one of our mid-level employees resigned. He was a diligent worker with solid skills, and his departure was a blow to the company. Our wages were never high, and he had young children and elderly parents to care for. Given his family circumstances, managing on our salary was difficult. We couldn't do anything about it when he said it was too hard to make ends meet with our pay. Fortunately, we were able to hire a replacement, so we managed to get through the crisis. However, this incident led to a significant disaster. About a year after the employee resigned, I was summoned by Williams. Just like that day, I faced Williams again. "Mr. Johnson, do you know why I've asked you here today?" Williams's large eyes glared at me. From his confident demeanor, I sensed this wasn't a simple price negotiation. "If it's about a price cut, we can't agree to that." I spoke cautiously. Watching his reaction, Williams smirked. "It's not about a price cut, it's about reducing the order volume." Reducing the order volume. It was hard to grasp at first. I had heard that S Industries sales were going strong. Our parts were extensively used in their products, and our deliveries were steadily increasing. A sudden reduction was unexpected. If it were a minor reduction, Williams wouldn't be involved. But since he was, it must be significant. "How much are we talking about?" In a sunken voice, I asked, and Williams replied with a triumphant smile. "First, we'll cut it by 20%. Then, in a year, we'll cut it by half, and in 2 years, it will be 0. Williams's grin widened as he watched my face turn pale. A 20% reduction would already be a significant blow, but if it's halved in a year, our company would be doomed. I never imagined that rejecting the price cut would have such severe repercussions. "But what does it mean that they won't use our parts at all?" "That's a problem. And your company?" I started to say, but Williams cut me off. "We've decided to manufacture the parts in-house. It's too risky to leave it to you. You're too stubborn, saying you'd rather not sell than lower the price. If we let it be, you'd eventually demand unreasonable price increases." We took precautions. Williams, usually a man of few words, was suddenly talkative. It's not unusual for a company to decide to produce parts in-house instead of relying on subcontractors. If the parts are simple enough, it's the buyer's choice whether to make them or outsource them. But the parts we supply are not that simple. They require specialized technology, and using substitute parts would necessitate redesigning the entire product. Something is happening inside S Industries. I don't know exactly what that something is, but what's certain is that our order volume will be reduced by 20%. And a year later, it will be halved, and in 2 years, it will be 0. Faced with this devastating notice, I left S Industries feeling utterly despondent. From that day, my mind was consumed with questions about what had happened at S Industries. The technology Jones and I developed can't be easily replicated. So why? The crisis our company is facing, and the changes at S Industries. These thoughts kept me awake at night. Even when I went to bed, I couldn't sleep, weighed down by a gloomy feeling. One night, as I lay awake, Jones's words crossed my mind. Williams is a man who will stop at nothing to achieve his goals. This thought sank my spirits even further. Around that time, John Smith, who had left the company a year ago, appeared. He had resigned due to financial reasons, saying he couldn't support his family on our salary. If we'd had the financial means, we would have done anything to keep him. Smith suddenly showed up before me and dropped to his knees. "Mr. Johnson, I am so sorry." He said this and broke down in tears. It was so sudden that my mind went blank. "What happened? Why are you here like this?" I asked Smith, trying to understand the situation. But as soon as I spoke, it felt like the fog in my mind cleared away all at once. The changes at S Industries, the reduction in parts orders, Williams's schemes, Smith's resignation. Smith had also been involved in the development of the new technology Jones and I worked on. "Smith, you don't mean..." Before I could finish, Smith bowed even lower, his forehead nearly touching the ground. The reason why S Industries no longer needed our parts started to become clear. After leaving our company, Smith had joined S Industries. No, he hadn't just resigned and found a new job. He left specifically to join S Industries. Somehow, Williams had found out that Smith was in financial trouble. Knowing Smith's situation, Williams offered him a lucrative position and poached him from us. At S Industries, Smith had successfully used the technology he learned at our company to manufacture the parts. He knew he shouldn't have done this, but Smith had no choice but to obey Williams. He was probably threatened with being fired if he didn't comply. With Smith's help, S Industries had solidified their ability to manufacture the parts in-house. At this stage, there were still issues with quality and mass production, so our orders had only been reduced by 20%. But in a year, these issues would be resolved. If that happened. Unable to bear the guilt, Smith tearfully and haltingly revealed S Industries' internal situation. "No matter the circumstances, leaking a company's technology is unforgivable." But I felt even greater anger towards Williams, who exploited Smith's weaknesses and manipulated him with money. "Production of the parts is progressing. I can't stop it anymore. At this rate, it'll be perfected before the year is out. If that happened, our contract would be cancelled." Faced with this dizzying reality, I felt a moment of darkness before my eyes. But then, another of Jones's words came to mind. "James, you should patent this technology. Once I'm gone, who knows what will happen to the company's policies?" Reflecting on Jones's words, I felt strength surging through my body. Now, I had to show that I was ready to fight back. There was only one way to confront the giant that is S Industries. I put into action the strategy I had prepared for this moment. Nearly a year after Williams informed me of the reduction, the time had come. Williams summoned me again. I visited S Industries and faced Williams in the meeting room for the third time. With a surly expression, Williams silently pointed to a chair with his chin, indicating for me to sit. His attitude was noticeably different from the previous two meetings. He seemed to have decided this would be our final encounter, and deliberately adopted a disdainful demeanor. "Let's skip the small talk and get straight to the point. We're ending our contract for your parts this month. That's all." Williams said this in one breath and began to rise from his seat. "Wait a minute, you can't just suddenly end it like that. We had agreed on a 50% reduction for at least another year." I managed to stop him, and he responded with a mocking smile. "We managed to scale up production faster than expected. So it's foolish to keep buying expensive pots from you. Don't talk about agreements when you are just a subcontractor." Williams's triumphant attitude made my stomach churn with anger. slapping Smith with cash and stealing our technology, then mocking subcontractors. Intense anger welled up inside me, and I felt my face grow hot. I took a deep breath to calm myself before speaking. "Mr. Williams, poaching our employees and stealing our technology, that's pretty cowardly." As soon as I said this, Williams's eyebrow twitched. But he showed little surprise, raising one corner of his lips as he began to speak with a displeased tone. "Oh, you knew it. It was bound to come out eventually, so I wasn't exactly hiding it. Thanks to your excellent employee who left you, we were able to perfectly replicate it. This is the power of a top-tier company. We don't need a small-town factory anymore. And let me tell you something else." Williams paused, holding his breath, before giving a smug smile. "I've patented it under my name," Williams said smugly. "Patenting it? That's absurd. There's no way I can let Williams take credit for the technology that Jones and I developed over the years. But when I think about it, that's impossible. Williams can't steal my patent. Williams is probably just trying to apply for the patent. That technology was developed by our company. How can you claim it, Mr. Williams? Patents are all about who gets there first. I don't care what agreement you and Jones had, it's ours now. So, you can't use that technology anymore. If you do, I'll sue you for patent infringement. Sorry, but it's game over for you," Williams said, barely suppressing his laughter. He might envision a rosy future with his name on the patent. But he's gravely mistaken. What awaits him is not heaven, but hell. "Mr. Williams, you're really deceitful. But nothing will go as you plan. In the end, justice will prevail. No matter what you try, it will be futile." I hinted at this as a warning, but Williams was too elated to notice. "Futile? I don't waste my efforts, and justice will prevail. Don't make me laugh. The winner defines justice." The sharpness that once marked Williams's elite demeanor had vanished. Convinced of his victory, he was blind to the obstacles at his feet. His once intimidating silver-framed glasses and glaring eyes now seemed like mere ornaments. Unaware of the impending disaster, Williams looked like a clown to me. "Good luck with that." I held back my laughter as I left the meeting room. A month later, Williams called me. I knew what it was about. "Johnson, did you deceive me?" Williams shouted angrily. He must have found out the patent was denied. "What did I deceive you about?" I asked innocently, which only made Williams angrier. "You bastard, how dare you? Why didn't you tell me you already had the patent? You never asked." Williams must have started the patent process without thorough research. He was shocked to discover the same technology was already patented under my name. "I'm not stupid enough to go against a big company without protection. I warned you it would be futile, didn't I?" I said, mocking him to provoke his anger further. Williams began ranting incoherently. "Do you know how much money we spent to produce those parts? You set me up. You need to take responsibility for this." It's ridiculous for him to demand that I take responsibility when they stole our technology. Williams seemed quite confused. "I don't understand what you mean by taking responsibility. It's your company that needs to take responsibility. You stole our technology, manufactured counterfeit parts, and used them in your products. This is called patent infringement. It's a serious matter." I could hear Williams sighing occasionally. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Williams changed his tone. "You're not thinking of suing us, are you? Don't do that. Instead, why don't we reinstate our contract and have you supply the parts again? Don't you think that would be a better move? Mr. Johnson, your company must be struggling without our contract, right?" Even now, Williams was belittling us. He still thought a small-town subcontractor would do anything for work, wagging its tail at his command. But a year ago, when we were informed of the reduction, we shifted our focus to S Industries' rival. Now, we supply far more parts to their rival, making up for the reduction. Additionally, we have already begun the process to claim compensation for patent infringement, totaling around $150 million. By now, the notice must have reached their headquarters. Mr. Williams, I'm afraid it's game over for you. We're proceeding with the compensation claim against your company. You'll likely be called in by your headquarters soon. Although $150 million might not be much for your company, I wonder what kind of consequences you'll face. Wait a minute, we've had a long relationship. Are you going to repay us with betrayal? You wouldn't do that, would you? I was completely taken aback by Williams's words. It's true we had a long relationship, but that was thanks to the bond built with Jones, not Williams. It was Jones from S Industries who advised me to secure the patent. He warned that the company's policies could change with new management. Thanks to Jones's advice, I was able to stand up to the giant that is S Industries. The gears are already in motion. It's now up to your company to handle this situation. I hope you sleep well, Mr. Williams. Insomnia can take a toll on your health. I ended the call with a light remark. This should put Williams in a tight spot. From now on, it's not Williams I'm dealing with but S Industries itself. A week after my call with Williams, I received a direct call from William Brown, the president of S Industries. He wanted to discuss the compensation claim and requested a meeting. I went to S Industries with my lawyer. I would have preferred to confront them alone, but I was advised that bringing a lawyer would prevent potential complications. Upon being shown into the president's office by his secretary, I saw a thoroughly exhausted Williams present. We deeply regret the trouble we have caused your company. After a brief greeting, Brown immediately apologized. Williams also bowed his head along with the president. But Williams's eyes were vacant, and he lacked his previous vigor. He was likely under immense pressure. Brown prefaced his offer of a settlement by saying that he was unaware of Williams's unilateral actions. President Brown, are you saying that Mr. Williams acted alone in this matter? Isn't it more reasonable to believe that this was done with company approval? I asked directly, voicing my honest doubts. Brown responded calmly. I understand your concerns, but this is the truth. Had Williams consulted me, I would have opposed it. We can't afford to violate compliance. Brown maintained a relaxed smile, showing no change in expression. As expected from the president of a large corporation, he was composed. Could I really extract the truth from a man like this? So, you're saying you had no involvement at all? I said, glancing at Williams. Williams bit his lip. It seemed to me that he was enduring a great deal of humiliation. Of course, Brown replied confidently. His unwavering attitude only made him seem more suspicious. Understood. Please tell me the terms of the settlement. With that, Brown took out a document and began explaining. The terms were twofold. First, a payment of $5 million as a settlement. And second, abandoning their in-house parts production to exclusively purchase parts from my company. $5 million compared to the $150 million compensation claim. And it seemed like he was implying we should settle because they'd continue buying parts from us. I glanced at the lawyer sitting next to me, who gave a silent, small shake of his head. This was a sign not to accept, and I agreed. I see. And what do you intend to do about Mr. Williams? I asked without changing my expression, noticing Williams's anxious eyes turning to the president. A heavy silence filled the room. It seemed Williams hadn't yet been informed of his fate. Brown, aware of Williams's gaze, slowly began to speak. Williams will be suspended for 2 months and then demoted from his managerial position to a regular employee, Brown said sternly. But this was too lenient. It seemed they had no intention of firing Williams. This was unacceptable. Mr. Williams tried to steal our patent. He poached our employee and stole our manufacturing technology. His actions are criminal, yet you intend to keep him in the company. If that's the case, there's no room for negotiation. Williams glared at me with a look of resentment. I motioned to my lawyer and began to rise from my seat. Brown hastily motioned for me to stop. Please, don't be hasty. Hear me out. Williams is a valuable asset to us. It's regrettable to lose him. However, if his actions are criminal, I can't defend him. Fine, he will be dismissed, Brown said, trying to save face. Williams shot a sharp glance at Brown, his eyes burning with an unusual intensity. Something was about to happen. Just then, Williams stood up. Pointing at Brown, he began to shout angrily. Don't be ridiculous. You're the one who told me to steal the manufacturing technology. You promised to make me a director if I succeeded. And now you are firing me. As he cursed Brown, Williams's legs gave out beneath him. No matter what he said now, the situation wouldn't change. Williams must have realized this and was venting his pent-up anger. Brown's face twitched for a moment before he regained his composure. With a cold smile, he looked down at Williams. The lawyer sitting next to me seemed so disgusted that he turned his gaze to the view outside the window. It was a pathetic scene, almost unbearable to watch. It was clear that the company had indeed tried to crush my small factory. I responded to Brown's proposal. We cannot agree to a settlement. We also refuse to supply parts. And we won't grant permission to use our patented technology. We've signed a contract with your rival, so from now on, we are adversaries. As I said this firmly, the lawyer who had been looking out the window turned his gaze back to me. We looked at each other and nodded firmly. Brown clenched his teeth, let out a big sigh through his nose, and closed his eyes. Though he appeared composed, his inner turmoil was evident. Brown's slightly trembling fingers betrayed his inner turmoil. Williams, collapsed on the floor, occasionally made strange noises. It was hard to tell if he was laughing or crying. As I left the president's office with the lawyer, loud noises came from inside. There were sounds of something being struck violently, something being kicked against the wall, and glass shattering. The only ones in the office were Brown and Williams. Whatever was happening inside, it was surely chaotic. I left S Industries headquarters with my lawyer. Eventually, Williams was fired, as Brown had declared. He was also under investigation for patent infringement. Williams's actions were deeply wrong, both socially and morally. So, not only was he fired, but he would also face severe penalties in the future. Regardless of the circumstances, Smith, who aided him, also needed to atone for his involvement. However, after Smith had paid his dues, I was willing to consider taking him back if he wished. His testimony was crucial in exposing S Industries' wrongdoing, and he had extenuating circumstances. As for the $150 million compensation claim against S Industries, it's uncertain how much will be granted, but with clear evidence, a significant amount will likely be paid. Additionally, S Industries will lose the parts we use to supply. This loss might be more damaging than the compensation itself. Now, they'll have to negotiate with the rival company we contracted with or find substitutes. The rival company won't give in easily, so they'll probably charge a hefty margin. In any case, S Industries' main products will definitely be affected. President Brown is under intense scrutiny from shareholders, so he's likely to resign soon. And as the investigation into Williams progresses, Brown won't remain unscathed. Not only might he resign, but he could also be named the mastermind behind the patent infringement. Our company's performance is steadily improving since we signed a contract with S Industries' rival. The terms are much better than those with S Industries, which will significantly improve our financial situation. While I don't have high expectations for the compensation, our lawyer is quite optimistic, so we might receive a substantial amount. If we do get the compensation, I plan to use it for factory expansion and improving employee benefits. It wouldn't be a bad idea to invest in the development of new technologies either. In any case, our company was saved by Jones, who was the manager in charge at S Industries. He seems to be on a journey of self-reflection now. When he returns, I'd like to share a drink with him like we used to.